All right, let's bring the February 7th, 2023 Sewer and Water Commissioners meeting to an open at 6:30. And we'll go right into Commissioners' Public Forum. Is anyone here for that?
I don't see anybody.
All right, hearing no one. Let's go right into a motion to accept the minutes of the Water and Sewer Committee meeting from the last meeting. What do you have, Cam? Can you read
All
that
right.
for us?
Sure thing. I can make a motion to approve the minutes for review of the January 10th, 2023 Water and Sewage Commission meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Any questions, errors, or omissions? Hearing none. Peter, roll call vote.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Jennings.
Aye. All right, next, warrants. Cam, what do we have?
Sure thing. I'd also like to make a motion to approve the warrants for review and signature totaling $10,333.19.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, errors, or omissions? Hearing none, roll call vote, Peter?
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Jennings.
Aye. All right, it's a tad bit early, but hopefully Vinny's here and he can get right into the MOR. Vinny,
We have we have abatements also, if Cam could make a
Oh.
motion for that. And I
Yep,
believe Jack Ridlack joined us as well.
Wonderful. All right,
All
how
right.
about that, Cam?
Sure thing. I'd also like to make a motion to approve the senior abatements totaling $861.13.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Any questions, errors, or omissions? Hearing none. Roll call vote, Peter?
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Jennings.
Aye. All right. Now is Vinny in the house?
He is.
I'm here.
All right,
right.
kick it up.
We're going to be covering the month of December 2022. And during the month, the plant was fully staffed by myself, Dylan Moriarty, and Grant Krisiak. In the month of December, Dylan submitted his resignation. He got an offer at a neighboring town to work in drinking water, and he was looking to explore a different opportunity. Health and safety for the month. On December 14th, we did Veolia's monthly inspection. And I met with the environmental health and safety coordinator to design a plan to cover the Charlton wastewater facility. The training was based on bloodborne pathogen safety in the workplace, which is an OSHA annual. And we also had an active shooter / active threat training. Compliance for the month of December, there were no exceedances, and the DMR was entered into the CDX on January 15th. The operation and maintenance activities. We started the month with clarifying number one's drain plugging up again. So we hooked the gas powered trash pump up inside the building, then sucked through the drain and pumped it all down to our sludge tanks. We got a lot of stuff moving. We actually pumped the clarifier right down, but as soon as we filled it back up, within a few days, it was plugged up again. So a little later in the month, on the 9th, we had Slims come in. They pumped it down. They tried running a camera through the drain line and they couldn't get through the blockage. So they actually had to use a rodder to get through it. And they pulled out a rock that was about more than half the size of the pipe. And the rock was stuck in there holding in some golf balls, sticks, and other debris. Once they got all that out, they ran the camera through it and the pipe was in good condition. We finished assembling the Comag sludge pump number 3. We had to wait on a couple of plumbing parts to put that back together. We used all Schedule 80 PVC for the connection, so it'll be no more rotted fittings in the future. We had a couple of older chemical pumps just kind of kicking around, and we recycled one of those to pump sodium hypochlorite to the plant water tank. The plant water tank's in the plant. It's probably 18 feet in diameter, and it's an open top tank, and the midge flies breed like crazy in there. And we did a bacteria test on it last year, and there was a good amount of bacteria living in the tank. So the sodium hypochlorite will help kill them off. And hopefully this summer it'll help with our E. coli results. The team mounted a 4-inch PVC pipe to the end of the plant. It's 80 feet long. And we actually sourced that pipe from another Veolia project that had a surplus. So there was no cost to the town for that. And this pipe, we use it when the plant pumps can't keep up with the flow. So we can pump around the building. We use the trash pump to do that. LaFleur Electric came out and they installed a replacement motor in the Headworks grit classifier. That's that one that's underneath the trough. It's real fun to get at. We installed a new well water pressure tank in the plant. So we use well water to mix the polymer. If we tried using plant effluent, it would just all stick together and make a mess. So we need to use that clean well water. And what happens is when the guys are filling the tanks, they're 300 gallons. We would actually lose water upstairs in the office. So it was just a good opportunity to straighten that issue out. We had a couple of leaking sampler lines we had replaced in the month of December. On the 23rd, we exceeded the capacity of the Headworks building, which is 750 gallons per minute, which comes out to a little over 1 million gallons per day. The plant's only designed to handle 850,000 gallons a day. So we had to pull the trash pump out. We got to try our new PVC pipe at the end of the building. All 6 EQ pumps were working the way they should have. And we came in a few times to gas that pump up overnight. After that, we brought the town truck in for its first oil change. We had some polymer pump bearing failures, and we ordered new bearings and just rebuilt them ourselves. The Headworks influent sampler hose froze up. We replaced the hose and we put heat tape on it and insulated it. We had an engineer from Hayes Pumps come out, and at some point in the future, I'd like to form a plan to pump our RAS instead of gravity. So these guys were just looking at our options, and I'm still waiting for them to get back to me with the best choices. And we continued working on the Headworks upgrade design during the month. On December 8th and 19th, we collected samples for both MTAs. We took 4 loads of sludge to Cranston, and we received 4,000 gallons of ferric chloride for chemicals. So we get to the grinder pump calls list. Looks like we had a lot. It was kind of isolated to 3 houses. This 73 Lakeview Drive, every time we went there, it was just like a different situation, a different circumstance, and we just always found a different problem. But it was never like the one before was the cause of the next one. So in November, this house had to repair the discharge line leaving their house. And in November, we went back and we found that their handoff auto switch was in hand. We didn't think anything of it, switched it back in auto, down the road we go. Well, here we are in December, we got there, and the HOA switch is in hand and the brake is tripped. So we reset the breaker and everything works good. Down the road we go. We end up back there on the 22nd, and it actually worked while we were there, but we megged out the wiring, which is a way of testing the wiring insulation. And we found that the pump was just like borderline good. So it would run for a while, and then it would have a temporary failure, and kind of reset the switch in itself and work again for a little longer. So we installed a new pump on the 22nd. Let's see, the 23rd, we went to 210 Sunset. There was a high alarm. When we got there, it was already cleared. So really not a whole lot we can do. We put them in hand at that point to make sure the pump's working. We look at the floats for grease. At that time, nothing really stuck out as a problem. On the 27th, we went back to 73 Lakeview and we cleaned some grease off the floats. The same day, we ended at 210 Sunset and the guys cleaned a little grease off the floats. It wasn't crazy. It was just like enough where it could have been sticking. On the 29th, we went back to 73 Lakeview and we installed a new float tree. And at that point, we were there and everything seemed okay, but the only conclusion we could come to is there must be a float that's just not working consistently. So we put in the new float tree. On the 31st, we went to 45 Hollywood Drive and we cleaned the floats. And that concludes the MOR for the month of December. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just one. How'd that rock get in there, do you think, Vinny?
Well, the power lines are behind the plant. And years ago, when we get real heavy rains, no, that wouldn't explain it. The rain does wash through the back of the plant, but it couldn't get in to clarify. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody threw it in from the power lines. It's kind of where I was thinking.
Some kids or something, maybe?
Yeah, it was the only rock we found in there. We've pulled
Yep.
golf balls in the past from the driving range. You know, if somebody's got a nice left slice, they can get right into the plant property. But yeah, I'm just guessing at some point somebody threw it in and it probably took years to become a big headache, which it's been.
Well, it's out of there now.
Yes, it is.
All right. That's really my only question.
Russ, Dave is on. He joined the meeting.
Wonderful. I
Hey,
will
guys.
step back. Let the chairman take over.
There you go. Wow, we just finished up Vinny's report.
Yes.
We did.
All right. Moving on to Beta.
So yes, Beta's in front of us tonight to talk about how far they've made it with their water modeling. I'll turn it over to Bob Mackey, who you guys know from Beta, and let him introduce his team, and they can go ahead and give you guys an update of what they've done so far, where they're at, and kind of what they plan on doing next.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having us. So as I think you all know me, I'm Bob Mackey. With me tonight is Andy Dennehy. He's a senior associate at Beta, and he's actually been managing this effort. And Chris Brainerd is working with him. He's our project engineer. I'm going to turn it over to Andy because he's more in the weeds than I am, and I'll misspeak if I try. So I'll turn it over to Andy.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, so for an update, where we are with the modeling effort, we've updated the model based on some information and data that we've received from the town. Some pressure information over the last year or so. We conducted a site visit last week where we've looked at the 2 new booster stations at the Overlook booster station and the Bay Path booster station. We also discussed some operational conditions and clarified exactly how the system is currently operated. So we've incorporated all of that information into the model now. We're in the process of calibrating it. I think we're going to be conducting at least one more site visit to get some additional pressure data, some flow information to look at both booster stations a little bit more in depth. And we're currently discussing scenarios that we want to model to see if any of those changes will help the issues facing the system. So that's where we are. A quick synopsis. I don't know, Pete, if you have anything to add or if anybody has any questions about that process.
Kind of based on what you've done so far, Andy, can you talk about, so the main issue that we're looking at immediately, the priority is what's going on at the Bay Path pump station. So can you go ahead and just kind of, based on what you've done and what the water model shows, explain to the commission why you think we're having those issues?
Sure. I think that prior to the construction of those booster stations, there were some large pressure fluctuations within the system. It looks like services, the small diameter of services have dampened those pressure issues to homes. So it hasn't really been a problem, although that condition it has existed prior to the stations being put online. Now that those two stations are online, that they've exacerbated the issue slightly. And what happens is if the system pressure is low based on one of those fluctuations and both of those stations turn on at the same time, there is a large pressure drop at both stations and within the system. But at Bay Path, that is at a lower hydraulic grade line than the overlook station. And what happens there is that pressure drops so low that that pump will get airbound. So they've set up within the programming of that station a fail-safe that station will shut off if it drops to, I think it's 10 PSI, which happens at this point around, it's once a week, I think is probably a fair kind of estimate of when those three conditions happen. So the problem, those pressure fluctuations predate the stations, although now you're seeing a symptom of that issue at that station. So what we're going to be looking to do is figure out exactly what's causing that pressure fluctuation. And if we can solve that, it should solve the problem at Bay Path. And we may look at some operational changes at those stations that will allow it to either eliminate that condition when they're starting at the same time or make it lessen those impacts. So there's some adjustments we can make to some of the controls there. So that's where we are and what's happening. I think the biggest issue is finding where those pressure fluctuations are coming from, what's causing them.
Do we have an estimated time frame on you knowing where those come from?
So we are in the process. I'm hoping to get out. I think it's a good opportunity with the school break coming up in not next week, but the following week, to be able to get out to Bay Path and see what happens when we turn that station off, to see if there's any effect when we do that, particularly at the overlook station. So we're hoping to do that. I would say that I'd like to be able to have something end of March. You know, and maybe a report to follow sometime mid-April. That would be my timeline.
Peter, has Bay Path had any issues in the last couple of weeks?
Yes, they've probably had 3 or 4 in the last 2 weeks, maybe in the last 3 weeks. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's nothing going on in the distribution system to cause that. It's not like Amazon's filling a 12-inch line with a wide open 4-inch adapter. So we've ruled all that stuff out. So it's really tough to say why it's happening. So it's gonna be interesting to see again when Andy and Chris come back out, if they can get a better handle on what's causing the big transients in the distribution system itself, which then get intensified when the Bay Path and Overlook pump station kick on in that new loop. But Andy or Chris, can can you guys talk about the elevation difference between the Overlook Pump Station and the Bay Path Pump Station? Because they're sister stations, right? They're the same design. They're kind
Correct.
of they're the same, pretty much the same operations, the same control panels, the same pumps, but we have an issue at one versus the others.
Yeah, so the Overlook pump station elevation, I think is about, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, it's about 30 feet lower than the Bay Path station. So
Yeah, about 32.
yeah, so what happens is that pressure drop is experienced at both of those stations. However, because Overlook is lower, that pressure does not drop below that 10 PSI that's causing the issue.
So
So
do you think if the pump station at Bay Path was 30 feet elevated lower, that we still have this problem?
you would have the fluctuation in pressures. You would not have the issue where that station shuts off because the pressure has dropped so low that that pump will get airbound, which caused them to put in this fail-safe to shut that pump off when the pressure drops below 10 PSI. And once that happens, it requires somebody to physically go to the station and turn to acknowledge that alarm and clear it before that station will run again. So yes, so to answer your question, yes, if it had been, and I don't know if everybody's been out to the site, but there looks like there was an opportunity to have put that, 20, at least maybe 30 feet lower as you're heading down the hill there. That would have solved that immediate issue with that pump shutting off. It would not have solved the larger issue of these pressure fluctuations.
But Bay Path would have water.
Correct. Yep, and it wouldn't shut off.
Will that be in your report? That specifically, will that be in your report?
Yeah, we will certainly say that, that would be one remedy to that immediate issue. But the larger issue, I think, is really what we're looking to solve at this point. But yes, that we probably wouldn't be having this conversation about that pump station shutting down had it been located at a similar elevation to Overlook.
Okay.
So I guess where I'd like Beta to focus some of their energy now is not just how to solve the Bay Path pump station issue, because that we can probably find a solution for that. But then we still have these big transient or pressure fluctuations throughout the system where you're seeing 40 or 50 PSI swings from wherever you are in a system, from 60 down to 20 or from 120 down to 60. And that's not good for our infrastructure in the ground.
Correct.
So if there's a way that we can solve the pressure fluctuations that are currently in the system, and again, those fluctuations predate
Right.
this school loop. So these were there, these are existing. They were identified. We all knew they were there. We kind of just hoped it wouldn't cause this big of a problem with the extension. But here we are. We can kind of hopefully just chalk it up to growing pains and try and figure out what a good solution is to stop it there. If we can stop those pressure fluctuations in the system, then it pretty much won't flow downhill. And we can also hopefully stop the pressure from dipping so low at the Overlook and solve more than one problem with our solution.
Correct.
And in the meantime, I'll also try and focus on water age and residual issues so we don't have to run the blow off. So we're trying to, again, not just, I understand the priority is Bay Path because we don't want them to be out of water at any time or any point. However, we also need to find a solution that's more than just a Band-Aid to fix it for them when we still have other issues in the system.
If I could jump in just for a second. So I think the effort that we've been going through up to now is really understanding the situation, trying to make sure we have all the correct settings in the model, and trying to calibrate the model so the model is accurately depicting exactly what's going on. That's what we're trying to get to. We're almost there. Because once we get that, then Pete, that's when we can start to try different scenarios, try different modifications to the system to see if we can dampen those transients. Because your system is it's such a long elongated, long runs where these pressure waves just build and build because there's nothing to really stop them. They just kind of build on each other. So it's kind of the nature of what happens with this type of system. So there are ways to dampen it, and that will be kind of Andy and Chris's next step once we get that model accurate.
Bob, will you be doing any type of a modeling with if we were to use the blue tank?
Our model has everything in there, so
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
certainly something we could take a look at. And we've
Yeah,
looked at
so-
it before, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we will be looking at that. We're also working on what scenarios and what potential fixes, even before while we're getting the model to be where it needs to be, we're also discussing what potential fixes there might be, and using that tank is one of the scenarios we'll be looking at.
So again,
Just go ahead, Peter.
I just want to, again, reaffirm for the commission to try and understand, kind of what the model is and what it does, and how important it is for Andy and Chris to have that model working so it accurately shows our current conditions. That way there, when they start to say, okay, we're gonna close some valves on the model, put the blue tank online, that we can be confident with those changes that the model shows. So when they provide us with a possible remedy, we can be comfortable that, it's going to cost us X amount of dollars to implement this solution, and it's going to work. And it's not just hey, we're going to try this and hope it works. So the more time they spend now getting that model to be accurate with the data that we have, and I think that, I'll throw maybe 80, you guys are like 85% of the way there based on what you showed me earlier.
Yeah, I think we have the model, and we did fix some connection issues about how you're flowing water and closing gate valves and doing that. So we're comfortable with that. We're not comfortable with seeing the pressure transients that the system has. So there's a few things that we're working on to see if we see some fluctuation. It's just not as drastic as the
Right.
the existing system. And like Pete says, we need the model to replicate that, because if it's not, any fixes are going to be to a system that is not mimicking the actual system. So it may take a few times that we go out and, hey, we want to see this. Let's get a pressure gauge here and see for ourselves exactly what's going on. And I think we plan to, like I said, we should be out within the next couple of weeks to look at some of those things.
And again, there's no real rhyme or reason for the pressure fluctuations that we can just put our hands on immediately to say, okay, this is the one user that all of a sudden uses a lot of water and stops. Because the system is, I don't know, maybe a 20-mile single lane highway of water going one direction. So many users on that start and stop and start that fluctuation to happen. And it's wild to see it over a 36-hour period, where in the middle of the night, when there's minimal use, you see the transients kind of come down, and they might be 10 PSI swings. And then after 5 a.m., when you start to see use, they grow and grow and grow to 60 PSI swings throughout the system. And then after 9, 10 o'clock, they start to whittle down and narrow down again to that same low 10 PSI transient. So the water model that they have, I think, was based on tank elevation, and it showed maybe a static 25 pressure swing, transient pressure swing over 8 or 9 hours, which is close, but it's not kind of exactly what we're seeing with our data. So
Right.
And to say, okay, well, it's pressure, the fluctuation's high at 2 p.m. this afternoon because Treehouse filled the tank, or because the MTA was busy, or because of the overlook and the Bay Path pump station pumps kicked on at the same time. It's every day, I think, is a different reason. And, when we were talking earlier today, Andy, you likened it to, for the Bay Path pump station to run out of water, it's not just one thing that's causing that. It's a series of events happening at the same time. So, there might be 5 contributing factors, and of those 5, 3 of them have to happen at the same time. And that's the combination it takes for that Bay Path pump station to go into fault or to lose enough pressure for it to fault out.
Right, which is why you're not seeing consistently at 7 AM every day. And you're not seeing, you're seeing it because whatever frequency of those 3 or 4 things that need to happen, are different. It's when they all hit at the same time. So, and that's on average about once a week. But it's unpredictable when those land together.
If it was simple,
Anybody else
Pete,
have any
you
more
would,
questions?
I was just gonna say, if it was simple, Pete, you wouldn't need us.
No, you guys are gonna earn your money for this one, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any other questions or comments.
Thanks, guys, for the update.
Explaining that.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coming on and just
Okay,
updating
thank you
everyone
for
and
having
sharing that
us.
information.
Yep, and we'll be in touch, Pete.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you,
All right,
guys.
thank
Thanks,
you all.
guys.
Have a good night. All right, bye.
Peter, moving on to new business. Looks like first on our agenda tonight is Curtis Hill Estate sewer connection.
Yes, representatives from Blair Builders are here to talk about the subdivision at the end of Curtis Hill Road and connecting that to sewer. Mr. Blair attended a previous meeting back in September of 2018 to kind of start the discussion on this request. I did attach minutes from that meeting in your agenda. It was pretty much, pretty informal, no decisions were made. And it was just, there could possibly be sewer available there. And we just needed more information. So I think Mr. Blair's in front of us to kind of bring up, to reactivate this discussion and kind of see what, I guess, where we're at with the sewer distribution and what's going on. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Clea and he can kind of introduce himself and his team who was with him and give you an update.
Thank you, Peter. This is Clea Blair, obviously from Curtis Hill Estates. We're from Rutland, but we build houses in Charlton. We've been building out there for quite a while. Right now at the old Castegian Farm, the top of the hill there, we have a 72 lot subdivision that we're about to bring into the planning board. We've been through preliminary approval. It was a while, probably a year or so ago. And now we've come back with the definitive plan. And we have a solution in order to do sewer. We were going to put in either all E1s or do a pump station and come across the railroad tracks down the road and pump everything. But we have a solution to bring it down the hill. I think I sent you the plans today that kind of shows the path of the sewer, the way we're going to do it. It's all gravity. I know we talked about this before. So, but with 72 lots, if you figure Title V, it was, I think it came to 31,000 gallons. If you figure 110 gallons a bedroom, 4-bedroom houses, that kind of stuff. Now, I built a lot of houses on, a lot of subdivisions on sewer lines. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, no, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Built a lot of houses on sewer lines. The average 4-bedroom house uses or puts into the system about 205 gallons a day. I'm sure you guys are familiar with all those numbers, but so it's about 14,000, 15,000 gallons a day when it's fully built out. It'll go into that line. I think Tom Larson, he's here with me from my company, Blair Builders. And I think he may have gotten the plans from you, Peter, that shows what size pipes we're tying into and just on the other side of the railroad track. So I really haven't done much of an analysis as far as what that end of the system could hold. But if it's on a pump station, it's pretty much timed just by whatever the size of the wet well is, as you're aware. So we're looking for a little bit of direction from the commission as far as availability and so forth. I think, probably within a year from now, we hope to be, building houses there.
Claire, I'm
You
Dave
need another
Campbell, the
info?
chairman of the sewer commission. So I've been taking a look at this, and it looks like, appears to me like the project is out of the sewer range, so to speak, of the purpose of the sewer here in town. So those are my thoughts. How was your thoughts on connecting that line gonna go?
So Tom can probably explain it better than me, but we're gonna come down the hill where, just about where that solar farm is now, there's a cul-de-sac that comes down. And we come down that hill and we come across, down through, a gentleman's property right now where you have some sort of a deal with them. Yeah, right here. Well, you can't see what I'm doing, but yeah, right where it's there. That's where it's coming down now and is gonna tie in. I had previous discussions with the board, like Peter said back in 2018, and I got kind of an indication that there was availability there to be able to tie in. Am I mistaken by that, or?
So I guess the way we've always approached back lots, or the commission has approached back lots over the last probably 15 to 18 years, is if you don't currently have frontage, there's really no sewer capacity available. And the reasoning for that is, our treatment plant is designed for 450,000 gallons per day. And no matter what we do for improvements here, we won't be able to increase that because the limiting factor is discharging to the Katy Brook, not how we treat. So we have a set limit of gallons per day, and we're currently averaging, say, 220 to 250,000 gallons per day. So it seems like we have a 200,000 gallon kind of fluff there that we have to use. But we also have a lot of residents who paid betterments to install sewer line to their properties who have not yet connected. So those residents have always been a priority to the commission to make sure that if they do decide to connect in the future, that there's capacity available. And the commission has also identified a priority to have sewer capacity available for commercial development on Route 20. So it's always been kind of the first roadblock to entry is, do you have frontage on the sewer line? And I think when we talked about this back, at least from my recollection, back in 2018, was if you purchased frontage and you had frontage to the sewer line, then we could possibly discuss what it would look like to accept, say 15,000 gallons per day of actual flow. Granted, I understand Title V is inflated and there's a safety factor there built in for septic systems. However, again, the barrier to entry was always, do you currently have frontage to the existing sewer line? And my recollection was you were going to talk about purchasing property to get you that frontage, where we could say, okay, there's now frontage for this project. What does 15,000 gallons a day look like? And what do we do from there? And the reason is there's a lot of large parcels of land in Charlton, and around where the sewer infrastructure is, there's a lot of other 60 or 70 acre parcels that could get an easement through somebody's piece of property to connect to the sewer line and say, well, you just did that for Blair Builders. We want to do the same thing. And then all of a sudden we have 4 of these going and we have 70,000 gallons a day coming in. And all of a sudden we're shutting off sewer use to any new customers, which is where, again, I don't want to speak for the commission, but I believe that's kind of our initial concerns right there.
Okay.
If anyone has a different perspective or wants to add on to that, please go ahead.
So could I ask a question? Hello?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Clay.
Okay, so when I came to the commission in the past, last time, they talked about a fee. It was like an $8,000 fee to tie in.
Per home, yeah.
And, all the other things that they went over with me. And I don't know why, but I don't know, I haven't seen the minutes, but it seemed as though they were kind of open to let me tie in there. I don't know where I would purchase frontage on the line, but like there's a house on the line now that I'm purchasing an easement through that would, it's on the other side of the railroad, but it would, the railroad is all along there. Where would you get frontage to even tie in? I mean, I guess it's
that's
really
the
up to
whole
the
point,
commission.
Clancy, is
It
that
would be,
the sewer line isn't available to that parcel of land because it has no frontage. I guess that's the whole, that's our issue. You don't have access to the sewer.
by buying, for purchasing that easement, I have access to the sewer now.
An easement,
But,
an easement.
it's, and I did look into that and I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, Dave. Can you guys hear me?
I don't think I said anything. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I thought you did. So, that easement is through, is through a piece of property that right on the sewer line there. So, I mean, it's not front. I mean, there is a way to get to the sewer line from the back. We have been, I think Tom may have met with Peter or on that, and I know, I didn't get the same vibe from the commission the last time. I apologize if I, looked into this a little heavier than I maybe should
Yeah,
have.
Clea, I apologize if the
They
commission
can always,
may have led you
things can
in
always go septic, but
the direction.
yeah, I didn't catch that. I don't know, maybe I have a bad connection. I thought it was pretty good Wi-Fi here, but yeah. I don't know. So, yeah, you said that you gave me that impression or no?
So again, so here are the minutes from the meeting that you were at. And again, they're not super in depth. I'm sure if we wanted to, we could pull up the video of the discussion, but it was really, I think, just a cursory discussion of it's possible. We did talk about what the privilege fee would be for the cost per home if you did want to, if it was approved, but I think it was just an initial, the board did not say no. But they also didn't say, yes, you're all set, come on in. So
Right.
I think this is just a follow-up for that
Right.
discussion. And again, we're 2.5 years down the road now and things are changing a little bit where we're starting to realize what we have going on and we might not be able to just say, yes, go ahead and come on board. We're happy to have the flow and thanks for coming and we're more than happy to accommodate you. We're looking at it from a little bit of a different perspective. And again, if any board members feel any different, or if any, again, if there's a different direction they want to go, we can talk about that. But
I think last time we discussed this, there were not a lot of things that are going on in Charlton going on then. I also think at that point in time, we had requested more information about the subject. And we had said, yeah, at this point in time, there's a possibility of doing certain things. But we don't know what your intentions are, and we have no plans from you showing what you want to do. You will need to supply us with more information so that we can make more decisions based off of that. And then now, flash forward 2.5 years later, we are dealing with large projects such as Amazon. Treehouse has requested additional flow from us, so on and so forth. And at this point in time, again, it's okay, so you're submitting information to us at this point in time, and saying, this is what I'm going to do. And now this is the point in time where we say, yeah, well, this is what we can provide for you, or this is what, this is not what we can offer you. And I think that's,
Understand. Understand.
that's where we were at.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel that's where we are at.
So I guess
It's all cut out.
this is more directed to you, Cleese. You're putting this in front of the planning board in the next month or so. How confident are you that this request is going to be a real request that is followed through with? Because again, I don't want to waste your time moving forward down this road, as well as, again, we don't want to waste our time looking into this if it's not going to happen for another 3 or 4 years. So,
Well, it's my intention. The plan that we did matches the plan that the planning board approved preliminarily. So I don't expect any real huge hurdles that we have to overcome. Again, you never know how commission or how planning boards are gonna be, but everybody seemed pretty receptive to it and pretty open to it. So I would think that it would get approved. And it's my intention. I've been sitting on this thing long enough. I would like to get it built. So it's not gonna be 3 or 4 years down the road. I mean, it could be 2024, but I don't see it going past that. I can't go past that. I just want to get houses going and get it built. Whatever kind of formal request, I would really like to connect to sewer. It would be, seems like you have pretty good capacity. I mean, 200,000 gallons is 1,000 houses. It's a lot of houses. I mean, in today's world. So
it's, yeah, houses, but it's
50,000 gallons.
it's only 2 or 3 commercial connections, depending on what comes in. So, yeah, I know it seems like we have a lot, and I think I don't want to make it seem like we're in dire straits immediately, but the end is near of what we're going to be able to do for expansion. And to expand the sewer line and then have to say no to people who abut it directly or who have paid a betterment to say, no, sorry, you can't connect, because we allowed other people who weren't part of the original sewer line, who didn't pay a betterment, to go ahead and connect, then that's kind of not where any of us want to end up.
Well, no, I understand that, but it's always been I've always noticed that people that aren't tied into sewer, that have their own private septics, unless it fails, they pretty much keep their own private septics. And doesn't the betterment fee get paid if they sell it?
No, this project is, that project's almost 20 years old, so they're all pretty much paid up within the next year. Yeah, so these owners have been paying on it for 20 years, some of them, because they've been in their house that entire time.
And they've not connected.
No, not yet.
Yeah. So it's always been my experience that people who have their own septic system don't want to pay sewer fees unless it fails and it's cheaper for them to do it. But
or until they go to sell, or until someone tries to expand and they can't redo their system, they want to connect. So there's definitely a lot of reasons where, again, those people are going to could possibly want to connect. And again, it's not a huge value there either, from, I guess, what the research that Sue's been doing and kind of what she calculated for residents to still connect. Again, it's just something that I guess I need to take all of this information and put it into a good format for the commission to see what it looks like. So they can go ahead and get a good grasp of of where we are, what might be coming down the road, and where that might leave us.
Peter, just if I may, one other big noteworthy thing in this whole discussion that was discussed, it's in the minute meetings, and I know it was discussed back then, is the moratorium that was and still is in place with the 10,000 gallons. And Clea, I believe that when it pertains to anyone coming in is design factor, not actual. So if you're looking at doing a project of under 10,000 gallons per day on the sewer line. Well, I mean, that's a totally different ballgame than something that's 2 or 3 times above that. And that's part of what Peter's getting into with the capacity and how the commission quite a while ago had decided to deal with the capacity issues that Tarleton faces to be able to provide the balance of commercial, residential, actual, and potential, being potential for people who have paid the betterment. And that's the subject that we're going to look into as well, not to convolute this subject with you, but I just wanted to again make you aware of that moratorium issue that's
I
in
understand.
place.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I remember that. Yep. I remember that. So I guess where do I go from here? I would like to somehow formally request that you take a look at it. I mean, whatever it works best for the town of Charlton, you guys want to do, and, you know, I respect whatever you do or whatever you want to do. It's just, I'd like to know, as soon as I could. I don't know whether I have to submit like a sewer extension permit, or is it just a verbal thing? Is it an email, or how do I go
Everything-
about asking?
So much changes. Again, if you're having, we'd have to really look into it and see if it would be considered a sewer extension, or if it would just be a single. If it would be, if it's a sewer connection, and then because if it's deemed a sewer connection, does DEP have to get involved? But just to throw a few things out there, where if it was approved and you were allowed to connect, you'd have to pay the $8,200 privilege fee per home that's connected, which you're aware of.
Right.
And that line that you'd be connecting to is a low pressure main. I believe it's a 2-inch low pressure main. And that goes down to a pump station on North Sturbridge Road. And I believe that pump station was designed for just a small area of the system, which is probably 70 homes. So if your whole subdivision was connected to that, we'd have to have some type of study done to make sure that that pump station can handle the additional flow from these new 74 home connections. So you'd have to provide us
Not only that, Peter, but also the connections of the houses that the sewer line's going to pass by.
Well, that line's already there, Dave, so it wouldn't pass by any new homes.
If he brings it up Curtis Hill.
No, that he would be connecting onto North Sturbridge.
Okay.
Right? This is
You're correct.
you have no intention, you haven't considered running the sewer line down Curtis Hill Road down to 31 and back around, correct?
No. I
Your
have
only,
not.
your only proposal is to go under the railroad and go through an easement or purchase a parcel to go ahead and do that.
Right, that's correct.
So
And just
So just talking out loud, I think you'd have a hard time going through the commission with an easement. I'm just personally speaking for myself. I would think that you would need to have frontage on the line. That's my stance.
well, the railroad's in the way. I can't get frontage. But I mean, the easement butts up to the railroad. And maybe the railroad's just an easement. I don't know. I don't know how their things work. And I did want to comment.
I think, like I said at the beginning, I think
Lost it.
Dave, you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
I can't hear him.
No,
Dave,
I
I
think
can't hear you.
he's froze. He might be moving, trying to find a better connection. So I guess Clea, if you would, I know you sent me an email today, right?
Mhm.
I guess I can accept that as a formal request. I can start kind of putting some stuff together and getting some stuff ready for the commission to kind of evaluate this.
Lost everybody.
Did the whole thing freeze?
No, I got you now, but it did for a while there, yeah. It looks like
All right.
Dave got disconnected.
Yeah, Dave well, he shut his screen off. Tom, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right, perfect. You're just so still, I couldn't tell if you were froze or not. You look like a statue over there.
If you want to talk about the connection, I can talk about that, but it sounds like.
No, I think
they're-
we're a little bit of ways from there. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here, but again, I think I need to present the commission with a little bit more information so they can have a holistic look at this request. And I do know of another parcel that doesn't have frontage who would be more than happy to follow this same route and do another 70 home connection, which would throw another 15 to 20,000 gallons a day at us. So unfortunately, Clea, this isn't just, we can't just look at this as a one-off, like, okay, there's one large parcel. We can let this happen and it's gonna kind of go back to the way it was with 7 new connections a year that we can kind of work with and roll through. And again, also with the priority to make sure that we have capacity for the commercial development on Route 20 that everybody in town wants to see. So I think, and again, not to speak for the commission, but the priority's always been is we don't want to be the limiting factor where new commercial development comes to town, property is available on Route 20, and all of a sudden we're the ones saying, sorry, we can't allow you to connect. So that the project's not viable because you can't do a septic system.
Right, I get it.
So
I understand. I mean, whatever, I respect however you guys,
Yeah.
work
So-
through it.
So again, I'll accept the email as a formal request. We'll have some conversations and I'll put some stuff together and try and put everything in a nice, neat package for the commission to see kind of where we're at and kind of everything else that we might see coming down the pipe and what it will look like. And hopefully I'll have that ready for our next meeting on March 7th. So, and hopefully then there'll be enough information there that they can go ahead and say, it looks good, we can go ahead and move forward, or, that it might just not be enough.
Okay. Fair
Okay.
enough. Yep. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
and
very
again,
much.
I really want to open it up to the commission to see, if you guys are in agreement with that, great. If not, let me know and I can definitely go whatever direction you want me to.
Sorry, I was cutting in and out a couple of times there. Just my personal thoughts is if you don't have frontage on the line, it's gonna have a tough time getting through. That's my thoughts. Again, I don't want to set a precedence with other people that have backlots that want to get easements and connect to the sewer. That's my biggest issue.
So Clea, I guess, does the railroad, do they own the property under the railroad or do they have an easement where they are? So when you say you don't have frontage, I guess maybe I just assumed that the railroad is on an easement, and if you bought a parcel on North Sturbridge Road, that would connect to your larger parcel.
Right.
But I guess if what you're saying is CSX own that, you think I think if you, I know it's all kind of semantics, but it does help the commission be able to say he has frontage, he owns property, and he's going to use that to get him access to that larger parcel.
Okay. Couple of things. Does it work the same like in most towns? And the DEP, by the way, turned it over to the towns. They don't get involved in sewer extensions anymore. So, but it's always been first come, first served. So in other words, whoever applies or asks gets, at the time, gets the look. A lot of towns used to do that. They would hold out for future and, and I don't know how it works in your town, and I'm not trying to say anything, but, I don't know, it just seems like so much capacity that it doesn't seem like it would, if we did have frontage on the line and it would be, it might be a way. I mean, it's a big tie-in fee. It's a good amount. It's what, 500,000-600,000 for you guys. Now I know, building sewer lines, but that's a pretty good chunk of tie-in fees. And, I don't know. I didn't know what your thoughts were on that. how does it work on a
Well-
first come, first served basis?
Like Mr. Jennings said, the moratorium in Charlton has been in place, I think, since 2006, maybe even sooner. That limits any connection over 10,000, no connections over 10,000 gallons per day, Title V flow, unless approved by the commission.
Right.
So like he said, if you had a project at 9,500 gallons per day, Title V flow, sure, not a problem. Come in, connect, thank you, but we can move on. But because you're, again, I know it's Title V, but that's kind of where what we go by to start. You know, you're talking 30,000 gallons per day. It's something we have to really look at and analyze and make sure we feel we have the ability to accept that without limiting us, I guess, in the near future. And I'm not saying that we're going to do that, Clea. I just think we have to kind of really, based on what's happened the last couple of years and what we're seeing, because we've approved actual flow, maybe 30,000 gallons per day of new usage between the two big projects on Route 20 that we've given approval to. So again, our current flow might be 250, but what we have coming in that we know of is going to bring us up to 280. Other small connections up to 300. You come on, we're at 315, 320. Then another 100-acre parcel comes on. Again, I can think of 2 other parcels that are ready to go that will be an additional 10, 15,000 gallons per day. And then there's still another 70-acre parcel that who knows what might happen there that has frontage and what they're going to do. So you say there's a lot of capacity, but I can go ahead and tell you 5 projects that we're going to be up to 380,000 gallons per day saying, hey, we're at 80%. We're shutting off all new connections.
So Peter,
Yep.
and this is part of the intent and part of why the moratorium was put in place, and part of the intent of the design of putting in the sewer line. When you say, okay, the sewer line was put in, one, for the main purpose to deal with the failed septic systems in certain regions. That was first and foremost, right?
Yep.
2, the sewer line was put in to add to the available capacity for future business development to offset the residential tax base in Charlton, to help us come to a better position for the taxpayers. That was second. That's still where we're saying, okay, now we're going to grant capacity to these users. Thirdly, there was not much consideration, if any, for potential large residential subdivisions. It just wasn't given because there was never the capacity. And this is where you have the moratorium that sort of governs it all. And the people who put together a lot of these new sewer line projects said, well, we're going to do them, but we can't be saying, yeah, we're going to go buy this 100-acre parcel, we're going to go buy that 200-acre parcel, we're going to go buy this 70-acre parcel, and they're all going to want to tie in. And that wasn't the intent of the original sewer line when it was installed, because there's just no capacity, and that's really the simple truth of it. So we're governed by the moratorium to protect against that, and that's again where I caution you, in your thinking of saying, okay, yeah, it's a good deal for the town. It's money. It's, why wouldn't you do it? It's 70 new homes, but look at the other side of things
Well,
too.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, but I understand. I understand where you're coming from. But I have to ask, or I'll never know. You know what I mean?
Yep.
No, absolutely.
So I mean, so it would be really helpful for me. And obviously the future residents who are going to live up there. Everybody, I know from selling houses in a lot of different towns, people really prefer municipal sewer over. And there's some people who've had a septic system their whole life and they love them. But usually selling new homes, people really prefer town sewer versus septics. So, I mean, that's obviously you can build septic systems up there. It doesn't stop me from building. And, like I said, I respect however you guys do come, do come around or wherever you come around to your decisions, however you do it, I respect it. So.
And just to get a basic understanding of the project, you're saying that you can go ahead and get all those properties connected via gravity with no pumps,
That's correct.
but it's going into a pressure main. So would you run it down to one pump station to go into that pressure main on North Sturbridge
That's a
Road?
pressure main, not a gravity main? That's
I
a
believe
2-inch
there's
pressure
gravity there. I
main?
believe there's gravity there. Gravity goes down to the pump station. So it would go from gravity to the pump station.
Are you east of Freight House Road? Where you're planning to connect?
I don't
Well,
have that plan
They're right in
from
front
me.
of that
I'm not-
railroad station.
I believe that's that's pressure there. Right, Russ?
So
From-
I believe I believe that's pressure.
I believe there's
I-
both right there. So there's both in the street there. We did have the engineers check that out. I believe I did
Okay,
contact you, Peter, and I believe you sent me all the paperwork that showed that was pressure and gravity. With the understanding that exactly what you said, if the capacity was more, the pump station had to be upgraded. Obviously, that would be on our dime.
Okay.
But
All right,
they're
so-
right there in the road, there's both.
okay. So you wouldn't have to do any grinder pumps in your,
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So it'd all be gravity. So we thought that was the beauty of the project, that would eliminate all those pumps
and
for
then,
maintenance reasons.
and then we would have to take over ownership of all that infrastructure.
Correct.
Well, no, you don't have to take over ownership of it.
Well, who's
mean, I
gonna
could give
maintain, who's gonna maintain it?
I could put it on a homeowners association. And they have to pay into it. I mean, yeah, it's done in a lot of places,
Okay,
you know.
that's why I was asking the question and
Y-
seeing
yeah.
what the intent was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my intent was to make it a municipal sewer line, but I won't, if you guys don't like that idea, it can always be into an HOA and, there can be a, RH White, they can hire RH White and they can come up and fix it. Usually don't have too many problems.
Yeah.
In the street. It's usually, coming down from people's houses that, it gets clogged, whatever. It's not too many issues with the street stuff.
I guess
So-
my concern is the cross country to get there, that's all. And maintaining that. So, yeah, so again, we're getting a little bit deeper than we need to right now. So let me, again, I have your request. I'll go ahead and put together some stuff for the commission to consider so they can kind of look at the big picture and where I think we're at, and they can kind of hopefully decide on the next meeting with that information and see if it's something that they're okay with.
Sounds like
Can
a
you,
plan.
can locate exact location of where that would be entering the sewer line, Peter, the existing sewer line? And then also just the number of units?
So
Yeah,
I
so
believe, excuse me, I believe, Peter, we sent you a copy of the plan and it specifies what manholes that we would be tying into. Did Karen send you that?
I'm
in the last-
looking at, I just found the last page. Okay, so they located that gravity sewer manhole. Okay. So yeah, I will definitely verify that that's the gravity sewer main, but again, based on what they have from our as-built for us, there is gravity there. I just couldn't reference that location where it was on North Sturbridge Road from the other picture,
Okay,
so.
all right, very,
All right, does anyone else have any other questions?
All right. Thanks for
Great.
coming, guys. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
gentlemen,
Thank
for
you.
coming, and
Thank you.
if I have any
Appreciate
questions, I'll
your
definitely.
time,
reach out to you
everyone.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Moving on, Peter, 2022 annual report.
Yes, so Sue and I have been working on the the 2022 annual report for your review and approval. This will go into the annual report booklet that's handed out at town election. And it is attached for your review and approval. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Sorry, my connection's awful tonight for some reason. I'm all over my house trying to find a good spot to sit.
Sometimes just shutting the video off, Dave, helps because it doesn't do that much data.
I don't know how to do that, Pete.
Shut your camera off
Yeah,
on the bottom left of the screen. Just shut your camera off. There you go. No. It mutes you at the same time. Can you unmute?
exactly. That's all right.
Silly.
Does
iPhone.
anybody have any questions on this annual report? Need a motion, Peter, for this?
Yes, please. If there's no recommended changes, a motion to submit would be great.
I can make
I'll
a,
make a motion to submit it as printed.
and I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Peter, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. All right, moving on. Letter for phase 2 sewer abutters not connected.
Right. So again, following up on the discussion we just had with Mr. Blair, based on, again, past discussion and current discussion about the capacity of the sewer plant, I've drafted a letter that can be sent to residents that have paid the phase 2 betterment, but have not yet connected. The concern is that with new growth that we may see in the next few years, we may reach our capacity for new connections at the plant and will not be able to allow new connections. Because these residents have paid sewer betterments, we want them to be aware that we will not be able to reserve them the capacity indefinitely. So again, this project, the phase 2 project took place, probably started in 99, 2000, finished in 2001, 2002. By the time betterments were assessed, those got, attached and started going out in 2003. So we're coming up on 20 years of how long they've been paying betterments. So they've had over 20 years to connect. But again, I think we need, the commission needs to identify how long you want to kind of reserve that capacity for them to be able to connect. So I have I have a proposed letter for your review that we could send out to these abutters to let them know kind of what we're facing and what we're looking at, and letting them know that we will continue to reserve the capacity for them until January 1st, 2024.
Peter, how
And-
many individuals are we talking about?
Sue, is it 180?
Yeah. Approximately, 179, 42 of them are land only, with 7 of the 42 were abated either due to being unbuildable or the lots were combined.
So for round numbers, let's use 180 or even 200. So at 200, we're looking at 40,000 gallons per day of, probably somewhat actual flow. So fortunately, it's not an enormous number, but it is something that, again, it's always been a priority for the commission to make sure that, we don't discount the fact you've paid a betterment. But again, in all reality, we've reserved this for you for 20 years. So sooner or later, I guess it's up to you guys. Do you want me to put a 40,000 gallon placeholder there indefinitely to make sure that we always have that capacity for these abutters?
I'd be in support of sending the motion. I mean, the letter, because it's not much different than what we went through with ExxonMobil, where they said, okay, you have a year to connect, and after that, you're on your own.
Yeah.
We're not naturally, we pick up the cost, but what we are saying is we are reserving capacity for you. We have been for the last 20 years. Now we're giving you an additional year to let us know your intention, make some sort of move to getting that capacity for yourself. If you're not interested in it and you're not going to notify us of such, then it's not going to be held available for you indefinitely. And that 1 year period is more than reasonable in my eyes, so that we can make future decisions, whether it's a subdivision or a business, and know that we have actual capacity, and we're not saying, well, we have this mystery figure over here of 40,000 gallons that we have to consider.
I agree. I think we should send a letter as written. Certified mail. Return receipt requested.
Agree as well.
You need a motion, Peter? Any more discussion?
I mean, if there's no more discussion, there's one change I just want to kind of throw out there. At the end of the letter, it says if they have questions to contact me. I think we should have that contact the chairman. I think that should, we should put Dave
I was
Cantwell
actually
there.
gonna see if we could put your home number in there, Peter.
Yeah, again, I'm not trying to make light of it, but yeah, no, again, this will definitely, again, maybe get people interested who have just been sitting on it for a while, and let people know that, look, it's, it's been 20 years and there's some stuff going on, and maybe there will be capacity, but there is the slight chance that in 3 or 4 years that we're not going to be able to say yes. So I think it's a good move. I think it's something we have to just kind of
Put people on notice. We'll let them know where they're at, and again, it'll create a thing where in the future we don't have somebody coming into us and saying they want to connect and we don't have the capacity for them. So kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
I'll make a motion that we send the letter as printed.
I will
How
second.
about- Second. Any more discussion?
Seconded.
Sorry, Sue.
Cam or
Who sec-
Peter, it was a tie.
Okay.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Moving on, any old business?
No old business.
No other business. Let's see. Next
Yeah,
meeting.
actually, other business, real quick. I got a call from Mass DEP today that we are getting another round of funding for FY24 for the Water Master Plan grant of another $200,000.
Nice.
So, yep, I will, I'll get to work with Beta and Peter Newton to go ahead
nice.
and go ahead and work on a scope of work to put that in front of you guys for approval, to see what we can do with that in the next fiscal year.
Perfect, nice
Speaking of
work.
that, is there any more movement on the couple wells that we were trying to drill?
Yeah, so we're looking to have 3 wells drilled actually this spring. Unfortunately, because of all the drought conditions in the fall, Charlton Well was trying to get people dealing with a lot of out of water calls, so they weren't able to get out there and drill on the Nature's Classroom property. So he's currently there setting up, and he should be starting to drill the first well tomorrow. And there's also a second location on the Nature's Classroom property that we have under agreement where we want him to drill. And then there's another parcel I'm working at, trying to get access to off of Bay Path Road on the other end of town, which is interesting. I'm proposing an agreement with that landowner. I'm hoping to bring to you soon. And hopefully we can get a well drilled there as well by the end of June. So if everything goes well, we should definitely have the 2 wells drilled on Nature's Classroom, and hopefully a third on another parcel that I'm looking at that has potential.
Thanks for
Perfect,
the
thank you.
update.
Sure.
Next meeting,
March
March
7th.
7th.
Yep.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Take
for
care.
Good night.